Ciao.
Mateus, here it is.
Perché non ti sento? Non ti sento. Tu mi senti?
Io adesso dovresti sentirmi, però dopo poi metto il muto perché si dovrebbe...
Ecco Diana.
Forte e chiaro, ti sento.
Benissimo.
Ciao Toni.
Ciao. Lui è Matteo.
Ciao.
Ciao, ben trovato.
Quello è Biagio, sembra un modello. Sembra un modello di...
Il nuovo immagine Ferpi.
E qui c'è Mateus, launch meeting. Io non devo launch meeting, è già lanciato il meeting.
Sì, non ti preoccupare, è tutto in funzione.
Quindi chi si collega sono attacchi suoi, giusto?
Sì.
Quindi possiamo incominciare.
Se parlo...
Ma era 18:30 all'inizio, quindi...
Ah, giusto, no, manca 10 minuti. È vero.
Diana, però tu mi senti adesso?
Sì, ti sento.
Perché adesso sto usando il microfono del computer. Va bene, l'importante è che...
Mateus, di qualche cosa?
Hi, how are you doing? Ciao, piacere.
Ciao.
E io mi faccio sentire anche tu.
Ti sento bene, sì.
Senti bene. Allora, noi cominciamo in cui presentando con Biagio che presenta Mateus.
Ok.
Berge, sì. Sì, in Berge. Yes.
Ah, Berge, Berge was PR Institutional Relations Director.
E a Berge è quella che è la grande
associazione. And Berge was founded by an Italian. You know that, right?
It was founded by
Nilo Lucchetti, who was working in Pirelli in Brazil.
You were in here?
No.
Come si chiamava?
Nilo Lucchetti.
Milo Lucchetti.
Nilo.
Ridillo?
So a Berge, where I worked before, it was founded by an Italian living in Brazil.
Say the name again.
Nilo.
Nilo.
Nilo. N-I-N.
N-I-L-O.
N-I-L-O.
Sì. E poi?
Lucchetti.
Lucchetti. Eliana, già che ci sei, ho appena parlato con Biagio e gli ho detto che la nostra discussione con la Grandoni, la revisione del testo, passa attraverso un colloquio che lei farà oggi stesso con Biagio e che Biagio la mette in contatto con i suoi
ragazzi. Ok.
Insieme faranno una nuova texture.
Benissimo.
Yes, 2012. The 2010 was Stockholm.
Yes.
That I was not on the board, but I been to the World PR4 was my first contact with GA. And then I joined the board, and then
in Stockholm.
Yes. And then after Stockholm, and then I joined the board.
2010.
And then I changed it to General Secretary.
It's 2010 Stockholm, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. And you were in London.
Hmm?
You were in London and
no, I was not in London. I was in
Stockholm.
Melbourne, Stockholm, Melbourne, Madrid, Toronto, Oslo.
The new one, the New Zealand.
It didn't happen. It was cancelled.
Is it scheduled or canceled?
In New Zealand, it will not happen. We are see what's gonna happen. but they canceled because
we have the
there is
application of Italy that is ready.
We
No,
need
not
to,
only ready.
no, now we need to.
Bologna.
It's paused
Now
because
Bologna
we need to see when we can meet in person again, and then we will.
Eliana
call
viene a
you.
Bologna e ci mangia tutti a Bologna. Ok. È proprio bello questo viaggio Oppi, eh? È un figone fantastico.
Ti monta la testa così.
No, ma da quando è entrato nella farmaceutica?
E Eliana, da dove stai?
Hai i prodottini giusti nella farmaceutica.
Eliana, dove sei adesso?
Torino.
Torino. Ah, yes, we moved our headquarters from Milano to Milano, from nowhere to nowhere.
Co-working space.
Okay.
As a CIPR has done, I think.
Yes.
They were, I think they were spending around.
Ma tu ci senti?
Sì, forte e chiaro.
Forte e chiaro. Sono le 6:25.
24.
Daniela Rodighi. Chi è? Vabbè.
Rodighiero. Benvenuta.
Benvenuta. Oh my gosh.
Daniela, è andata via.
Vuoi che ti do il numero di... Sì, adesso te lo do. Il numero di Giorgia Gambone. Così la chiami in mia presenza. Sono sicuro che ci sei. Allora, Grandoni, where are you? È 347 175 4232, anche WhatsApp. Giorgia Grandoni. Lavora con Luca Poma, è una socia di Luca Poma ed è un tesoro di ragazza.
Hi, Mauro. Can you see the participant? Hello, Mauro.
Chi è? Mauro Covino?
Sì.
Oui, Mauro. Mauro Covino is in Rome.
Poi mi scrivete qualcosa per la newsletter, vero? Dopo questa conversazione.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Biagio will do it.
Month of training.
Yes.
That April.
See.
April and May or
Just April this year.
April. Okay.
And tomorrow you have another call with Patrick. Yeah.
Are you going to?
No, I don't think I will be there, but I have read the book.
Already?
Yes, I finished it. It's an enormous book on crisis communication. It's crazy, completely crazy. I don't think anybody reads books anymore.
Probably you have less and less time for books
18:29. Ah, scusa.
Tu vai? Tu?
Ah, no, vabbè, ma l'importante è che ci sei tu. Poi quando...
Hello?
Chi è? Chi è quella bella bionda?
Mia sorella.
È tua sorella?
Sì. My sister.
From Brazil.
Ecco,
No.
Sì, from Brazil, yes.
From Brazil, wow. Ma io non l'ho mai conosciuta tua sorella, o sì?
No.
No.
Enrico, hello Enrico.
No, you don't have to stay out of the way. Maybe we can put it there.
Yeah, I think.
Buonasera a tutti.
Buonasera, ciao.
Ciao.
Bentrovati.
Fabiana Sister, Enrico. Lo spostiamo in avanti? C'è un cane che fa casino, ma
Meno male che c'è il cane.
gli dico di stare zitto. Appena mettiamo giù. Eccoci qua.
Ok. You are distant.
Tu vieni qui.
Ciao Fabiana. Hi Claudia. Fabiana is your sister.
Sì.
Okay.
Yes.
I read sister. So great.
Sorry,
One
I
minute.
was with any sound. Now I take this.
Okay.
Hello, I'm here in Brazil, but it's raining, so it's difficult to understand. But now I close the door, so it's better.
Okay. Welcome to our call. Hello, Melita.
Ciao.
1 minute and we start.
Buonasera a tutti.
Fabiana Sister si chiama.
Melita, ok.
Enrico è il nostro nuovo socio, il nuovo gruppo.
Sì.
Nuovo componente del gruppo. Ciao Enrico.
Ciao Toni, ti do del tu perché so che sei
Ci mancherebbe altro.
democratico.
Si fa per dire.
No, ma hai capito cosa vuoi dire.
Sì, certo.
Okay. What do we do? 6:30? Should we start?
I think we need to start because we told everyone that it will be 6:30. We told everyone, we told someone.
Oh, yes. Hello, welcome to everybody. I wish you can hear me well. We're here for this conversation with Mateus Furlanetto, Toni Falconi, that is hosting us at his splendid home on Campo dei Fiori. Mateus has been for a long period PR and Institutional Relation Director of ABERGE, that is the Association of Public Relation Professionals in Brazil. An association founded by an Italian, and he will also tell us the story. He has been for a long period also in the board of Global Alliance from 2012 to 2016. Then he became in 2017 Chief Administrative Officer of Global Alliance. And so he has seen very well more than 10 years of Global Alliance, from the Stockholm Accords during the Stockholm World Public Relations Forum, the Melbourne Mandate, and then all the meeting in Madrid, Oslo, and now in this new version of Portugal. Let's start with Toni, that is hosting us and obviously was the founder one of the founder and the first chair of Global Alliance. Toni, the ball is yours.
I'm very happy to have Mateus here in Rome. He already came to Rome a few years ago, and I have known Mateus for much longer than that. He was a student in University of São Paulo, and he was a scholar, a student of my very good friend Paulo Nassar, who is still today professor of communication at the University of São Paulo. I was connected with Abergé, which is where Mateus comes from, because it was the big association of public relations in Brazil. It was very important at the time. You will remember that at the time, Brazil was a very important country before Furlanetto. No, before Furlanetto, before, what's the name of Lula? Before Lula and before? Dilma. Anyway, Bolsonaro. Sorry. I don't want to offend anyone. And it was one of the rising countries. You remember the pigs? It was Portugal.
No, the BRICS.
Sorry, BRICS. And so there was a lot of attention to public relations in Brazil, and Brazil had a lot of, it still has a lot of companies that are operating and a lot of colleagues that are doing. And Brazil is one of the few countries where the official type of public relations is, in a way, governed by law. Licensed. We might want to get into that because that's something which is very, on which a lot of Italians seem to be very keen on. I don't necessarily agree, but this is beyond the point. Then you moved over, you came to New York a few times, and you went to Syracuse also as well. You did a program with Syracuse University, I remember that. And we met many times in New York and in São Paulo. I'm very happy that you've come to Rome, and I'm very happy of another thing, which is very important, and that is that you have now become also, not only, but also an Italian citizen. And God knows why one would think of wanting to become an Italian citizen today in this situation, but welcome, and we're happy to have you with us. And we look forward to your contribution, and I am sure that Biagio and I, in the name of all the other members of Ferpi, friends that are listening, are happy to hear that you have been assigned by Ferpi a honorary membership, and you are, I think, the only non-Italian or ex-non-Italian, because now you're fully Italian, a member of the Ferpi. Now, let me start. One of his passions is theater. Ever since I've known Mateus, I was fascinated by his interest in theater from every point of view. And so first thing I would like to ask you is, when you were in Molise, which is where you got the Italian citizenship, what theater did you do there? How did you manage becoming a theatrical star to the point that they made you a citizen?
Thank you, Toni, for hosting me here and for always meeting me. You mentioned in New York, in São Paulo, in all the other countries. Actually, we met first in Stockholm at the World PR Forum, organized by Jay. That was my first contact with the Global Alliance. And thank you, Biagio, Biagio was a colleague of me also on the board of Global Alliance. When I was a board member, Biagio was there representing Italy and Ferpi, and hosted us in Milano for an AGM and during the Expo Milano. Yeah, it was very nice. He hosted a seminar, a conference with Global Alliance. And yes, so I'm very honored to be the honorary member from Ferpi, and so thank you very much. And I want to be more with you from now on. And next time I will be speaking fluently Italian here with you. So Muzi, yes, actually, because we are now in this pandemic time, so the performing arts are kind of locked. So over there, I saw some theaters building, but for sure I could not see any theater playing. And I love theater a lot. It's one of my passions. And to the extent that in some points, like in 2018, 2017, I watched around 200 plays a year, because I was following lots of festivals here in Europe, also in Brazil, and it was kind of an addiction. And I sometimes I would make a little joke that saying, okay, I need a full year without going to theater. I didn't know it's gonna be like this fast and during these times, but it's a different moment in different times, so we get used to that. And as Biagio talked on my presentation, and Toni mentioned, I am from my undergraduate and graduation was in public relations, because in Brazil, public relations is a licensed profession. But people would think that because it's licensed, there are lots of guarantees that lives of PR might be better, but in reality, it's not, because the licensing was created during the dictatorship period in Brazil. So the military licensed journalists and PR to get control of people who were communicating. And so so does it mean that if you have a title of PR in your business card, on if your job description is PR, you must have a PR diploma from the university. What happens nowadays is that very few people are called PR. They are called communications. Sure. So in that way, you don't need to be a PR to have the function. Also, the council for PR, they go look for people who are practicing PR that don't have the diploma. So the first time contact they have with the council is like, you are getting a fine because you are not working properly. So all the other people who don't have a PR degree, they don't have good feelings, or they don't like the council and the PR. So in fact, this regulation, in a way, even people who have the diploma, they are not also registered on the federal council. So in the practical world, it doesn't make any difference, in fact. Okay. And so after I left school, I started working for ABERGE, that's the Brazilian Association for Business Communication. So my entire career, I have been working in the associations. So I worked for 70 years in Brazil at the Brazilian Association, and following that, I joined the Global Alliance. And as Toni mentioned, like the years that I worked at ABERGE, Brazil was on the rise. People were very much interested about communications in Brazil, doing business in Brazil. And at that time, ABERGE launched an interesting program called Brazilian Corporate Communications Day, where we traveled around 20 countries, inviting and taking Brazilian PR professionals and communication professionals to talk about PR in Brazil. Because you also know, like here in Italy, you speak Italian, in Brazil we spoke Portuguese. So for the world to know the kind of communication that we do, there is a need for us to talk in English and to go abroad, because they're not gonna come here and try to find what are the practices that we are doing. So that was a very interesting moment in my career, I would say, that I learned a lot, and I traveled to many countries. That was very important for the position that I have now, that's working at the Global Alliance.
An interesting thing that he reminded me of now, as he was talking about the Portuguese, is that the Global Alliance has had in its history, has had a high interest in Portuguese language, not only because it's a very beautiful language and it's Brazil's language, but it's also Portugal's language, and it's also João Duarte. João Duarte used to have your job. He was the first person to have your job in the Global Alliance, and he started way back.
Mute, Mauro.
Dobbiamo vedere forse che effetto fa, come dire, poi valuteremo da farci, nel senso che probabilmente insomma.
Can you mute Mauro?
Oppure insomma se noi abbiamo una via cioè, sulla parte del documento, abbiamo, vuol dire, prevediamo.
Okay. So João Duarte, who is a young Portuguese, and he lives here in Rome. So he's another Italian. I don't know if he's ever become Italian. I'm not sure, but he's been in Italy now for many years with Enel.
Yeah.
And so he has a very important communications, public relations position in Enel's, which is, as you know, a very important company and owns Endesa, is that the name?
Yeah. Yes.
Endesa, the Spanish energy company. And so we have a Portuguese connection, a Portuguese language connection in Global Alliance with the passage from João Duarte to others in the meantime, yes. And then to you back to the Portuguese language. So this is just kidding, but also not kidding, because there is a reason, because Brazil has been very important for the Global Alliance from many perspectives since its beginning. First of all, it's one of the few countries that still recognize license. I have very mixed feelings, as many of my friends know, about the license issue, but I know it's always there. It's always there. Fortunately, in the countries where it has been experimented, it has not succeeded. No. And therefore it's not there anymore because nobody cares anymore. But in countries that have not done it yet, there's still a lot of attraction toward being recognized by the state. And the state has a lot of other more important things to do, particularly today, than to license public relations. I mean, obviously, I know that the reason why there is a lot of interest in this, but the interests today are not interesting anymore.
And Mateus says that doesn't give any sensible advantage to.
Yes, it won't make it when you are looking for a job and in an interview. They will take in consideration other factors. Of course, if you are opening a PR firm, you must have at least one licensed profession to be the PR profession in each PR firm, or if the company, a large company, calls the department PR. Okay. If you call PR, if you have anything related to PR, then you must have a PR licensed profession there. But as we know that also, like the name of PR, we see many Global Alliance members, like from Norway, Finland, Sweden, they changed from PR associations to communication associations. So there are some associations that changes, they're not using the PR name anymore.
A question that I ask both of you. The Global Alliance began and was founded by associations, public relations associations, and there were 20, 25 members, then 60 members. Now, the Global Alliance says it has 200 plus members. And these are not all associations. Who are the new ones?
The new members of Global Alliance are the majority universities and research and training organizations. So we of our origin is the PR and communication associations, but then it extended also to allow members that comes from university who have a major course who teaches PR.
So the member is the university.
Is the university.
So there are no individual members.
No.
Never been.
No.
As far as I remember, no. Okay. Well, that's important to know because when somebody asks you, are you a member of the Global Alliance? I'm a member of Ferpi, and Ferpi is...
Yeah, because the way Global Alliance operates is like we have members all over the world, and the members of our members are also Global Alliance members. So the benefit from Ferpi to be a member of Global Alliance, that all Ferpi members, they can get all the content that Global Alliance generates. They can get a discount rate when they go for a World PR Forum as a member. And also they are like, in this year we start, there is the Global Capability Framework, which is a self-assessment that you can do on your, evaluate yourself from where you are in your capabilities, in your abilities, and where do you want to be in 5 years from now? How do you track it? It's being done in partnership with Huddersfield University, and then all the members, they can have access to this program and self-access them.
How much the other association are including the capabilities framework in their documents or in their guidelines? Because I saw that Canadian and some other probably are using
Yes, because it's available. So what happened is Global Alliance built this model with Huddersfield University, and then we provide it for our members to provide them to their members. There are some countries that they also generate a local, an addition to adapt for local realities for that, and then they are providing. We now have around 25 countries that also local associations that are providing it for their members. But that's that's an activity that each of our members needs to implement, because of course it's in English. We'll discuss a little bit of that, like the Global Alliance language is English to get a global reach.
Now that you're Italian.
Yes, but actually, yes. But of course we have, but also Global Alliance now has 6 regions. We have the regional directors from Europe, Africa, Asia, Pacific, North America, Latin America, and India, Middle East. So in the regions, they can also have regional events and also develop things in their own language. But of course, if they do it in English, we can have...
La mia area delle poste che mi dice sto comunicando i dati al servizio Roma Capitale, al servizio insomma richiesto.
With the microphone. Okay.
Cioè mi dice devo comunicare i dati.
Diana, can you mute the... I
seguenti dati stanno per essere inviati al fornitore dei servizi. Io acconsento.
Valentino, can you mute?
E mi dice i dati, siamo in attesa di Roma Capitale, cioè viene una piccola maschera, un secondo. Ecco, posti da...
Grazie. I have a question regarding April as the education month of Global Alliance. What happens? Can you give a quick explanation?
Yes, so this April we are just on the education training month. We are providing about 60 webinars that are provided by our members. So we made a call, we called our members to provide 1 or 2 webinars. So we got a selection of around 60. It's gonna be 2 a day. And it's completely free for all. So if you go to Global Alliance website, it's globalalliancepr.com. And you right on the top, you have the schedule for the education training month webinars. So then you can have access and watch. The average time for the webinars is around between 15 to 25 minutes. Some of them, they are longer than that. for 40 minutes or even 1 hour, and they cover the variety and the most important communication themes. We started it last year because it was right at the start of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So last year we had 50 webinars that we could assemble together, and this year we want to have more than last year. So we are now so today is April 6th. So we've already released 12 webinars, but by the end of the month there will be 60. So it's a good opportunity for you to take a look and see, because at least 1 or 2 or 3 of the things are going to be interesting, important for you, and also you can share that with your colleagues at work, and you can watch. There is a launching time for each webinar, but they will be available for on demand throughout the month of April. So, and because Global Alliance, since last year, we started having themed month. So February, the focus was on ethics. March was in communication transformation and communication trends. April is education training. June is going to be diversity and inclusion, and September is going to be health and
diversity and inclusion, June?
Yes, June.
That's very interesting. It's one area that we are covering a lot. Yeah, and we have a couple of strong themes that we are discussing in Ferpi and with a lot of our colleagues from other countries in Europe. And that is, one is the theme of evaluating and putting quantitative numbers on intangibles. And that you know very well that the leader of this trend is Mervyn King, and he who was the one that founded did the famous report, the King report, and is now the honorary chairman of this new organization of the International Integrated Reporting Council. And the Global Alliance never mentions in any of its things that it was originally part, and it founded this international with Prince Charles in London. And John Pelusik was there, I was there, a lot of us, we were there and we worked with them. And it's funny that the Global Alliance forgot that of this participation. It never actually capitalized on it. And Stockholm was one of the results of this, and a lot of other things that happened. That's one area. The other area is the question of, is communication a tool for relationships, or is the relationship a tool for communication? Now, however you put it, the two things are tied together, and all the discussion which seems to be going on around the world still on whether this should be public relations or communication seems to me to be completely misguided. What is your opinion on that?
Wow, I agree with you. I see actually the words and the people are, some people they connect to some words and they keep using that word, but in other people has a different connotation but in the practice way they are doing the same thing. It's communicating and building relationships. The important thing is to be build the bridges and be understandable and have the harmony, or not the harmony anyway, but the practical way, like we are communicating and understanding each other, it for me is the key point. Like whatever you call it, it's some side discussions. For example, since I was in school in Brazil, they were also talking in Brazil like press relations and public relations, because in Brazil, because also journalist is a licensed profession, there was a fight always press relations from or publicity to be done by journalists, or is it to be done by PR? But at the end of the day, like every company needs to communicate with the press. And if it's well done, following the ethical rules, and you get a good result for the company, that's what matters. I don't know if I got it.
What do you think about this? You're much more important than I am on this issue.
I think that sometimes we think that public relation is an abused word, and so we try to escape it and move to other definition, while gives, in my opinion, more the idea of something strategic within the organization. So if I think about public, if I think about stakeholder relationship management, I think about it as much more strategic for the organization than the communication itself, that I find as a tool that each manager should be able to use. No?
How do you find yourself in your new job?
In my new job, I try to be a public relation, but my definition, my job title is head of corporate communication, obviously, because it's not a loved word, public relation. But yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's interesting because like the Aberge, where we used to work, the proper definition of the letters of the word was the Brazilian Association for Editors for corporate newspapers and magazines. Okay. And at the beginning, when I was there because people, and we had our brand that they would print what's on their corporate publications that they belong to Aberge, they're a member of the Aberge, and it was very focused. Okay, somebody was hired to create to work in internal communication or external communication. Let's create a newspaper, our internal news magazine, our internal newsletter. So it was very much focused on media, because communication was like in media. So I'm publishing that, I am distributing it and communicating. But in fact, we know that it's not that simple, because it's not that the things that you put to the public, but if the public don't read, don't access, don't understand, don't change their behavior towards what you are aiming for them. So are you really communicating? Are you really getting? And that goes to your question, your thing about the results and evaluation. Because one thing, okay, I have posts everywhere, I have been covered on the news everywhere, but what change did it really make from the brain of the company or the attitude from the stakeholders?
I think one thing, example, if you think about corporate social responsibility, why do we take care of corporate social responsibility? If we are communicators, we should take care of the communication of the corporate social responsibility. If we think about ourselves as the people that manage the stakeholders or try to give some guideline or educate about it, we can also take care of the corporate social responsibility overall. No? We can be the advisor and the strategist of the corporate social responsibility. If we take care only of the is not a little or a small work of the communication, it's only a part of that.
Yeah. One of the points that we have similar to Brazil is that in Italy, journalists are licensed. There is also a big discussion going on in the licensing of journalism, because with this pandemic and with the acceleration of time and space, we are rethinking everything, and maybe it's a good time to rethink everything also in terms of this. issue of licensing or not licensing a profession. I don't think that professions need licensing. I think the state, as I said before, has a lot of other more important things to do. But I do recognize that the problem exists. If we license PR people, we should license journalists, but also we should license software.
Yeah.
We should license a lot of other things that have come over the last 30 years and were not there when in the last century. So I think there's a lot of rethinking to be done, and that we must not avoid the obvious risk of neologists, new terms, purpose. Like the Global Alliance did this thing on purpose recently that I did not particularly appreciate, but who cares? And a lot of other things are happening. We invent terms, we fall in love with terms, we don't know what they mean, and when we don't know what they mean, we don't agree. So what's the point? I mean, it just makes no sense. What do you think about this?
Yes, I agree with you. And also, like, for example, even sustainability now, there is a new term that they are using, that ESG. So that are the waves that you see in the corporate world. Let's not only talk about PR, but it's the corporate world that are using those terms. And we've been like sustainability. Also, you ask about people what is sustainability, and then many discussions comes. And yes, but I think like the themes of these fashion themes, that it's something that as I've been around more than 20 years working in PR, at some point somebody's talking about this, and then it changes a little bit. And so are the waves that changes.
Yeah, the terrible thing is that this argument is very common in most countries. The big players, the big companies, the big agencies, the big major consulting companies are the worst enemies of the ethics of the profession, whatever profession name you give it. We are the ones that create all the problems. And so I think that either ethics is no longer a variable, if not in life. When you look at yourself in the mirror in the morning, and with the Stockholm Accords, with the Melbourne Mandate, we identified what you should ask yourselves when you're looking at yourself in the mirror in the morning. But that is one area of responsibility that we have. But also all the other professions. I mean, people who work in software have as many problems as we do, and particularly those who work in social media have more problems than we do. Yeah. So it is really it's more of a way to get away from your responsibilities to continue to bicker about the terms. Yeah. I don't know.
Yes, and also, like you see, all the companies, they do have the ethics code, the compliance, they have all the things. Like if you look at in Brazil, the major corruption problems that we had, if you look at they had all the bylaws, the procedures, but that at the end of the day, it didn't, when they wanted to do the unethical activities, they did it. So in a way, like also communication is putting, our job is kind of help save their reputations, like in a crisis management, try to save the company at that time. And like you are kind of defending the indefensible in a way, because they do apologize, they go on TV and said they had this
What about Big Pharma? My friend Biagio, what do we say to Big Pharma?
Pharma is very regulated, and usually we tend to be very obedient to laws and regulation. What we have seen in the last year was a disaster because we have created a huge expectation, and probably someone has communicated too much, has created a kind of big bubble about
enormous bubble
about the vaccine in particular, and when expectations are much bigger than what the reality is, you created this disaffection. So the reputation of pharma was at its highest in September since the beginning of the measurement of reputation. It has never been so high, and now it has lost 20 points in general, and some companies much more. You know, AstraZeneca had to change the name of the vaccine. But yeah, I don't think it was an ethical problem. Probably it was a responsibility issue. So
no, it was an ethical problem. The prices that some of the big pharma companies charged the governments. I think that was part of the problem, but it was not. That's not really the problem. The real problem is that they were overcommitting themselves. Anyway, I think we have.
Yeah, we have some question. Maybe one question.
Can we have questions?
Our guest mentioned regional departments within Global Alliance. Is Europe particularly diverse in terms of practices, especially under the publicity and public opinion management activities? What is the geographical scope and what are the measured goals? I think she's referring, it's a question from Claudia, she's referring to the regional boards. And so her question regards the diversity of practices in publicity and public opinion management. Is there a diversity among continents, different regions?
Well, it gathers like different cultures, and each country, each culture they are in different. They are different levels of democratic government, and for some countries, like even in Brazil, like for example, I can talk more about Brazil because I come from there, but like Brazil is a huge country, and when you do like media relations with a big news and broadcasting and newspapers, it's one way. But if you do it in a local newspaper in the little town that you have your plant, it's different because they will mix. If you don't pay by advertisement, you're not going to have a good publicity. So they will try talk bad about the company in order for them to buy advertisement, and then they will change it. So, and also the owner of the newspaper is the editorial and commercial, the head of the editorial and commercial department. So there are many, and then I'm just telling about one country, but then you can extend it to much more than 100 countries that exist, and there are different practices and things. If I understood your question properly, like we try to promote the diversity of ways to do. Jay never says this is the way to do something. We try to work in like a standard, a minimum way that you could do that it can work worldwide. But we are sure that there are local characteristics and the local way of doing communication that it might differ, for example, from China than from Brazil or United States or Egypt or Middle East, where some countries they are very well controlled. You cannot say openly what you want. You cannot say openly things against the government. even in Brazil nowadays, we changed completely our government. So it's.
Are you going to change again? Hopefully.
Yes. So, but it's the associations also have the place to try, if we see some unethical or some kind of practice that's not going to be good for the market, to help changing it, and also promoting the best practice, the best way to do things.
You have been part of the Code of Ethics of Global Alliance Constitution.
It's what we call the generic principles and specific applications, which is, by the way, it was, shall we say, formulated in what's the name of the Mormon University in the United States? There is
yes.
in Nevada. No, not in Nevada. No, I can't remember the name. I'm sorry. I'm too old.
I don't know.
It was one of our colleagues was there, and he was teaching there, and he invented this concept with James Brunig and myself and a few others, the generic principles and specific applications, and there are a lot of examples of this, which are still going on, because globalization is another of those buzzwords which needs a little bit of rethinking rather than just citing it. But anyway, that's another big issue.
But because the paid content now is becoming more and more important in the overall communication of companies. And I think it's becoming a more controversial issue than before, because before it was a little newspaper that was asking you some money, it was the industry, the trade magazine that was living only of that and was very technical. But now paid contents are very similar to editorial contents.
Yes, sometimes it's not clear that what you are getting,
particularly in social media.
Yes, that's in social media specifically. Like sometimes
at least in traditional media, it is official. Somehow, more or less, or it's given for granted. Let's put it that way. That's even simpler.
But, and if you think of another complication, when the traditional media makes the influencer itself, so put on the social media topics in order to influence, because and it's paid, but it's not advertising because you are not promoting a product, but only an idea. It's very
Well, we should have another year of
conversation
of COVID in order to get rid of all these issues. But we'll never do that. Okay.
Other question?
Thank you, gentlemen.
No, please. Who is talking?
I was just thanking you gentlemen all, and welcome Mateus in Italy, since we have just acquired the new citizens. Congratulations.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you very much. Grazie mille.
So we don't have a certificate for Mateus, but it's a virtual one.
Biagio, one question from my side.
Giuseppe De Lucia is our local host.
Local host.
The last delegate.
So first of all, thanks to be here, because it's nice for us to have the opportunity to talk with you. It's an opportunity, and we are very lucky that now you're also an Italian citizen and also a member of Ferpi. So we are more than happy to have you on board with us. Thanks for your speech and for your consideration that are very relevant for us, because it gives us the chance to understand better Global Alliance PR, that is fundamental for our association, but also for us as a single member of Ferpi, because many times we say that one of the value of our Ferpi is the fact that we are part of a global Global Alliance, because it's a value to be part of the international network. So happy to understand from you more information about this. One question to you is about, there are many questions. One of these questions that I would like to submit to you is, what do you think, based on your experience that you have in different countries, which is the, I don't want to say the best practice, but the advice, if we can say in this way, advice that you can give an association like Ferpi to be, let me say, to help to increase our relevance in terms of PR professional in this country, because before Toni made the discussion about license or not license for the people that doing PR, obviously there are different positions. We can open discussion, but this is not the moment now. But for sure, in our country, we know that if we compare ourselves with the journalists that instead of the license, many times we are let me say the loser, because journalists, the fact they are licensed, they are very strong, they are recognized as a profession, as competence in such way. As Biagio said before, many times when you talk about PR, is or RP is more people that are going to the party or organize people, community, other stuff. So sometimes it's very difficult to express the competence and the strategic work that is behind this profession. Obviously, this is easy for the people that are working in a company like myself, like Biagio, like the others, because in the company there is the recognition of this competence that you bring, because they consider you as a manager. But when you talk about freelance, sometimes it's difficult to express the value of this function. So one question to you is, what do you think, if you have in mind some advice that you can give to an association like Ferpi to improve or to increase, let me say, the recognition for our profession? Thanks.
Thank you, Giuseppe. Thank you for hosting me here also. So,
Matteo, Giuseppe, why he became the former prime minister? You called him Giuseppe.
But this is normal, because I have so many friends. I work in an international company. Normally they say Giuseppe. So also when so it's normal. No, don't care.
Sorry. Thank you.
So, wow, that's an important question, because it actually is the challenge for all the associations nowadays, is to show value to their members. Because like in the past, there was no LinkedIn, there was no social media. So for you to connect with people that have some similar interests, association was a key place to be. And so nowadays, people, they can join those groups, those networks, but also the association, they have something that I see from many of our members, is the knowledge sharing, the knowledge creation. It's, of course, there is the relationship, the network part is very important, but also is what kind of content, what kind of knowledge that you are generating and sharing with your members. That's a very important thing that any association shall offer to its members nowadays. And that's so, like like if I could, you ask me for one advice, is like getting to know the best topics. Then you need to also know what are your members looking for. As you mentioned, there are members that are working in a corporate world. They have one kind of, they are looking for one kind of things. PR persons who are freelancers, they are looking for other things. There are also people who are in mid-career, senior career, but also the people that are starting the profession right now. So you need also to have different offers for all those different kind of professionals, because they are looking and seeking for different things for them. Because at the end of the day, we want to improve ourselves. We want, nowadays is a lifelong learning. Like social media, when we went to school, there was no such thing, and now we are basically living on this world and having to. I am also a teacher. I'm teaching media relations in Berlin, and like media relations is the title of the course I teach. And it's something that I remember what I studied and what people are facing it now. It's a whole new world. So like, even like there are not enough literature or books written about that. It's something like that's new social media have been creating. Like now it's Clubhouse phenomenon, and how is it going to be? It's TikTok. So it's something that at some point younger generation is more user, knows how to navigate in this new media much better than older person. So so that's something that one kind of advice that I would give. And of course, it's a challenge to get people, to get the attention of people, to get people to join events. And what I listened recently from some of our members, that they are getting a higher audience for their events now, that it's online. Because in the past that were physical events, people had restrictions of time and restrictions for any other kind. And now they were looking at, I heard from a couple members, that the online programs that they are offering, they are having a higher number of members joining and participating. And also, like, you can also in a way gather people all over through in the digital world, where in the past it was, if you have a meeting like in Rome, it's basically the people who are in this city or nearby that could come and join. And now you can do this meeting and open for the entire country to participate.
It's the same in Italy anyhow, also because digital was really helping to reach more wide audience now, as you said, because digital is helping you to overcome some barrier and difficulty, linked to distance. So also in Italy was the same reality. Yes. Thanks for your answer.
Maybe we have just the time for one more question.
Yeah, one more.
If there is online. In the meantime, I want to recommend some of the webinar and videos that will be promoted for the Education Month. In particular, CIPR are very high level kind of training.
So for the there is a variety of things that I told you. That we had PR professional from Finland who is talking about mergers and acquisition, okay. And also talked about how she communicate the COVID thing she works in the pulp and paper business in a large corporation. There are PRSA is offering 3 webinars that it's their regular webinars that they host for each month. For members of PRSA is free, but for non-members it costs $200. But for the education training month, if you go to the GA website, there is a coupon that you can use, and then you can watch that webinar for free.
Okay.
So that, and also yes, and you can. So that's some tips. Some tips, but there is a variety of things there.
The PRSA has become a very active member. Oh no!
Yes.
It wasn't initially. It was only John Palusek who was active, but now it's changed. It's very alive.
Yeah. So, what can we say? No question. No other questions. So maybe we can.
Biagio, sorry, excuse me, Vincenzo speaking. Matteo, what do you think about abuse the word purpose? It's important purpose for you. Also, for example, inside this discussion between journalist and PR manager, the purpose. What is the purpose? Purpose is the vocation. We have to change. We should have to change the vocation of the organization. And what is your think about the stakeholder relationship or the governance, like Toni Muzi Falconi said, the governance of the governance. So the role of a chief communication officer inside a stakeholder relationship management system or strategy.
Wow.
Wow, yes, I know, yeah.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
So wow. So as we were talking, like there are words that they come and goes, and the purpose is the word of now this time that we are working. Even that I have even seen in Brazil some purpose directors. They are having some titles in some companies that the job title is like a purpose, and so it's they call new names, but in the past, actually we are talking about the same old things that we have always been talking, that where are we, where do you want to go, what are our values, where do you exist, why are you in this world, for why is this company, why do we exist, or why am I a public relations, or am I a communication, am I a communicator, what do I want to change? If you people need something to there is the clear thing is because sometimes people are doing communication and they don't really know why they are. It's more in the, as Toni was mentioning, like the tool. You're using communication as a tool, not as a strategic thing. So it's if you don't have this strategic thinking, if the company don't give communication and public relations the strategical approach, it doesn't matter the good campaigns, the nice campaigns that they are gonna do, and at the end of the day, it's gonna get no results. And like also Biagio was mentioning the thing about the vaccine nowadays. So, for instance, it's a good cause that we need, but you see many countries that people are afraid or not willing to take the vaccine, and they get a lot of lack of credibility on that. I think I was a little bit confused. I don't know if I answered your question.
Lot of things.
No.
I don't have a proper direct answer to you.
No, the relationship between purpose and global stakeholder relationship strategy system, but you have answered me, don't worry, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
You are welcome.
Can we
close? Thank you again,
Thank you,
Mateus.
everyone.
Thank you, Toni, for the hospitality.
Thank you, Toni. Thank you, Biagio. Thank you, Giuseppe. Thank you, Ferpi.
Frank, Vincenzo, Chiara. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ok.
Grazie a tutti voi.
Ciao a tutti.
Bye. Bye.
Grazie.
Bye bye.
Ciao Serena.
Ciao in português. Bye bye. Ciao.